Good afternoon. Welcome back. I say as I'm talking to myself. Hold on. I just had 2 interviews. I'm wearing like basketball shorts and this because this is what I wear for interviews. I had an online video call interview just now, and then I have 2 tomorrow. I have been spending 4 to 6 hours consecutively every day just applying for jobs. I took a break in between my cousin's fall break time for a week because I wanted to spend time with them. Ironically, I didn't hang out with them for like 2 days, but I just took a break. My eyes are killing me. Oh my god. I understand a lot more now when people say applying for jobs is a job in itself. So hopefully something comes of the interviews tomorrow. Sorry, I'm trying to say less. I've been doing it a little bit more recently. Not proud of it. I don't like saying don't like saying trying to get out the habit, but this is a book that I read recently, Sophie Kinsella's Surprise Me. It is about a couple, Dan and Sylvie. The book starts with you get the general story. Dan and Sylvie are just this couple in the UK, and they have twin daughters, Anna and Tessa, I believe. I think they've been married for however long, but they go to a doctor recently. I think it's like a couple's doctor, I guess, and he's just checking up with them, and he's like, yep, everything seems to be fine. You guys have a good, roughly average 68 years together left, and that kind of sets something in them because they're just like, 68 years. And no, I never took the time to actually think, but that's a long time. My thought also is that, I don't know, that's crazy. I guess you don't really think about it every day. But then you got married. You knew you were going to spend the rest of your life with this person. I think she has a best friend in the book. Her name's Tilda. Tilda got cheated on. But when Sylvie asks Tilda about it, she's just like... Actually, no. She was just like, well, in the sense of my marriage, I didn't see it lasting long because look where that happened. Anyway, so the story starts off with just some, just a basis of it. I haven't done a book review in a minute, and truth be told, I feel like I should have actually thought about what I was going to say before recording, but I make these videos for fun, so... Oh, wait. Don't watch this. Don't watch this if you think you're going to read this, or if you care about spoilers. I don't care about spoilers personally, but some people do. You shouldn't. I don't think it changes your experience. I say this, but... Am I getting distracted? I was in the 8th grade, and my friends, I had one friend, she was reading Harry Potter and not Prisoner of Azkaban. I think it was book 8. Order of the Phoenix. She was reading Order of the Phoenix out loud, and I was in like this last chapter bit, and she was reading how Sirius had died, and I was bawling, I was crying, I was trying not to hear it because he was my favorite character. I loved him so much at the time, and they were spoiling it for me. I think I was being too dramatic, but I don't care about spoilers now, kind of. Back to the book. It's a couple in England. They realize, after realizing from the doctors that they have 68 years left, it kind of gives Sylvie an idea, because I guess their marriage has dulled out a little bit. So they start this project Surprise Me, something like that. But essentially, the two plan surprises for each other, and then unfortunately, time after time, as nice as the gestures were, it just kept going hiccup after hiccup. I think things keep getting sour from that, and it's just, as the book progresses, things get more tense, and maybe they realize they weren't as right for each other as I thought. I think at some point, they're enjoying a date or something like that. They go to a garden, and it reminds Dan of his ex-girlfriend Mary. I don't remember when, but he had an ex-girlfriend named Mary, and that kind of gives Sylvie an off-putting thing because I think they just had sex, and now he's like sitting here and he's getting all wistfully thinking about Mary, and every time she tries to talk or ask him whether it's about feelings or whether it's even about Mary in itself, he gets really defensive. And so the majority of the book is just the surprises and things not turning out the way they want. Literally, to me, a rough 75% of the book. The plot twist in this book, actually, a really big thing in this, Sylvie loves her dad. He died in a car accident a little bit after they had gotten married. And Dan, for a majority of the book, Dan doesn't seem to like her parents. Like, every time she gushes about her father, who she idolized, or she just talks about her mom, you can just tell, like, he did not want to be there. He didn't care. I think every time Dan and Sylvie took their girls to Sylvie's mom's house, their grandma's house, she would put on the wedding video, Dan and Sylvie's wedding video, and she said something snarky to Dan. She was just like, he's certainly not the star of the show compared to your father, because Dan makes a remark saying that, Sylvie, if you notice, your dad is literally the star of the show in our wedding video. She's just like, I hadn't really noticed that. She's in denial a little bit in the beginning, and then she kind of realizes it, but then when she brings it up to her mom, that's when she was just like, well, Dan's not the star, blah, blah, blah. A lot of it is bickering, not talking things out, her being afraid that she's getting cheated on, and then gets to a point they have a really bad argument, and he's just like, I gotta go. And of course she's gonna think, are you leaving to go cheat on me because you're not gonna talk to me about Mary? And she saw them hug after like a dinner party, talking. She saw him over talking. Sylvie saw Dan talking to her mom, and he's whispering, 1 million, 2 million pounds. And she doesn't know what that means. So she thinks that he's asking for money. She keeps thinking that Dan is jealous of her very successful father, that she's idolized since she was young. And then come to find out, in the climax of the video, she's going all over the place trying to find Mary. And then when she gets to Mary, Mary's like, that's not my phone number. Because he kept a secret phone in his study, in his desk drawer. It's not that Mary, but she's like, hey, if you go talk to your mom, though, I kind of know what he was talking about. It doesn't feel like my place to say, but I think you should talk to your mom because he's related to all this, whatever solicited beef is. Unsolicited? Whatever issues. So she actually looks up the phone number, and it's another Mary. So she goes to second Mary, who is a lawyer. And then, long story short, I guess, her father was allegedly a pedophile. Apparently, he might have been messing around with a 16-year-old. And Dan, all this time, whatever he's been hiding secret, every time she asks what's wrong and it's not, he's actually... Dan's been trying to help Sylvie's dad's case. Because from what they say, apparently it wasn't true. It didn't happen. So he's been helping with his whole case because the girl who he allegedly raped or touched or did whatever to, she's writing a book. She came out with a book, and then he helped debunk it or pay her off to not talk about in her first book. But now a second one's coming out, and that's what Dan's been working on, and he's been really stressed. So that's why he lashes out on Sylvie. That's why he never wants to talk about anything. Towards the end of the book, he's just like, this is why I didn't want to tell you, because like I saw how hard you took it when your dad was dead. I'm not going to tell you about all this stuff just for you to realize like he's actually a really shitty fucking person. There's like a lot of loose ends as I'm talking about this, so mind me. It's not the best synopsis, the way I'm explaining it. I feel like I wish they had one of those, the discussion questions at the end like the other books I've read. It was a really interesting read. I don't like that 75% of it was just, I guess, the main issue that you would have thought it was. Like, just them having marriage hiccups. I really wish they would have gone into the climax a little bit earlier. I think it was a little bit rushed, but it's an amazing. It's a good book. It's an interesting read. I don't know whether in the end Sylvie's dad was actually a pedophile or not. I don't know if I read it wrong and I looked it up or if that's up for interpretation. But towards the end, the girl, her name's Jocelyn. Jocelyn doesn't straight up say if he did that or not, but she does say that he's kind of the cause of her eating disorder. I don't know how eating disorder plays into this, but that happened. Also, I feel like when you figure out the lore about her dad also, he was treating Dan really shitty. Like, as soon as Dan figured all this stuff out and was trying to openly help this man, it's said in the emails, the hundreds of emails, as he talks to Dan, as Sylvie's mom talks to Dan, Dan talks to them, her parents treat him really shitty. He hasn't told her any of this because he got married to her and he just wanted to make sure she was okay. He didn't want to tell her. Dan didn't want to tell Sylvie all these issues about her dad because she was already going through it with when he had died. I think at some point also he died. Sylvie's dad died in a car accident, and so I think in during her stages of grief, at some point she goes to the house of the guy who killed him. She's something about a letter. She wasn't actively gonna hurt him or anything, but she's there, and then people were calling her mental. Her mom gave her a lot of shit at the time. From when she was younger, Sylvie was just like, my parents, they would always get mad. They would look at me like I'm crazy. They think I'm delusional because I had an imaginary friend. And that lore kind of comes into that tidbit comes into the lore of all this. They have been gaslighting her, leading her to believe that she was crazy and she was imagining things, when actually her imaginary friend Lynn was Jocelyn, the girl who might have gotten raped or touched inappropriately by Sylvie's dad. I didn't know it was gonna turn into that. I didn't think she'd still stay with Dan, truth be told. With everything that happened, I feel like also with all the amount of stress and stuff that Dan has been doing for her, I thought they were gonna get divorced. She chops off her hair in the end. Sylvie's hair is all the way to her waist, and she always kept it. She never thought about cutting it because of her father. She idolized him. He said, like, something, her hair was really precious to her. And at some point, she's just like, did you love me, or did you just love that I was a shadow of you? Like, something to you. And then he also wanted to be a knightsman. So that was a big reason why he put a lot of hush money into Jocelyn's book not wanting to come out, with details regarding him, at least. She chops off her hair. Everyone's shocked. She's going into hysteria during all of this towards the climax because everyone's looking at her with pity. Mary, who she thought Dan was cheating on her with, Mary the lawyer, her mother. People keep looking at her in pity, and she's going crazy during that because she's just like, I'm sick of living in this bubble. I'm sick of people looking at me with this face of pity. Literally, what the fuck is going on? Everyone knows something and I don't. And I could see why she's fucking crashing out. She wears a black suit a little bit towards the end because she always catered to wearing floral, pink, feminine things for her boss. Her boss of which she works for this museum, and I don't know how to explain the lore to that, but essentially she's working for this museum and they're getting fundraiser money and stuff like that, but they run things really old-fashioned because of her boss, Mrs. Kendrick. And I think it has to get shut down because her evil nephew, Robert, he came in, he was like, hey, I'm going to turn this place into condos if you can't turn this whole building into something else. I think in the end they actually turned into a venue and stuff like that, so they did save the building. She ends up quitting there because her time there was enough, so she's gonna try to find something else. I thought this whole story, romance-wise, she was gonna leave Dan. I thought she was gonna get cheated on a little bit, leave Dan, and then be with Robert. Because I feel like there's kind of a way it hints that her and Robert could have been something, but he was also just checking up on her because she was crying while at work. I like Robert's character. He seems funny, weird. But then Sylvie says at the end that Robert and then first girlfriend Mary might be something because they were talking to each other. Dan had no feelings for Mary whatsoever. Second Mary was just a lawyer who was helping Dan with all that weird, the book stuff. First Mary, his first girlfriend, that was just a first girlfriend. He had no feelings for her. No future feelings for her, I guess. I get the sentiment in not wanting to tell her, no one wanting to tell her all this stuff so that she didn't have to worry about it. But when you treat a grown woman like this, hold on, was that worded properly? Sylvie's a grown woman. She's a grown woman with 2 children. You're married with 2 kids. I am very much sure she can handle the truth. I get him not wanting to talk about the fact that her father was a pedophile after he got into a car accident, but I think at some point she did deserve to know. Or if anything, she deserved to know when he was alive. Oh, no, but Dan makes a good point. He said that her dad would have killed him if Dan had told Sylvie, because he was already treating Dan really poorly just for knowing this in itself. But there's a really interesting metaphor that they use. Dan's like, he's just mad now that the veneers are off. So her dad is crazy. I wasn't expecting that. She goes on this whole tirade because she's just like, you were always jealous of my dad because he made money and was successful. Blah, blah, blah. So that's why she thought when she overheard Dan and her mom talking about 1 or 2 million pounds, she thought he was asking for money. They had a lot of problems that they really could have talked about from the get-go. Not even, like, if you don't even think about the dad thing in itself, they had a lot of problems that they could have talked about. And he kept trying to hold it together to keep her okay. And I feel like he didn't realize that in doing so, you're fucking losing a piece of yourself. You're not talking to your wife. You're barely holding it in together. I don't know. Her mom is really defensive in this. She never reads Jocelyn's book and doesn't read a lot of the details a lot. She just says in the end, Sylvie's mom says about Jocelyn that she's making up these fake stories about him. He was a great person. She could never accept his success. This is a 16-year-old girl. I don't think she gives a damn about his success. I feel like I feel like I had more to say. This is an interesting book. I love reading romance books. This took a very interesting turn. One that I was not expecting. They got a snake. In like the list of things of how they surprise each other, he decided to surprise Sylvie with a snake. And it's because she was joking about it once. And she looks horrified because she does not want a fucking snake in their house. I feel like with all these, the way that they took some of these surprises, I don't know. It was weird. We're gonna be together for 68 more years, but let's spice it up a little bit. Problems, things aren't talked about. Climax, is my husband cheating on me? Oh my god, he's not. He's actually protecting me. Protect Sylvie. Program. Club. He calls her Princess Sylvie, and apparently she hated it. And at some point she says, Princess Sylvie is dead. Something. Do you want the old version of me back? No, I like the new version of me better. Some corny stuff here and there. I didn't like that part. I don't know. If I heard my partner say I like this new version of you better, I feel like that rubbed me off the wrong way. But I get the sentiment in that the old version of her was this version who just didn't know all this stuff happening. All that. Whatever. She also has a really crazy fear of heights, and I don't know where that comes from. But she's running to him to apologize because she thinks he's ignoring her a little bit towards the end. And she's on a tightrope. It says rope stairs, something. But they call people and they take her down. And then a kid ran into her. And she's bleeding on her forehead. The kid didn't even look sorry. I'd be mad as fuck if a kid ran their bike into me and didn't even look apologetic. Okay, that's off topic. They see the doctor again towards the end. The couple's doctor. I think they invited him over. And he's just like, oh, wait, my math was kind of wrong. Because they bring it up. He didn't remember he even said that. But he was like, oh, wait, my math was wrong. On average, actually, you're only going to have 64 years together. Oh, some salmon. And he walks away because he sees salmon. And they look at each other like, 64 years? That's not enough. Let's start living now. And that's the end of that part. That was corny. It was cute, I guess, but corny. I don't have a rating for this book, but I do think it was an interesting read. I read this in 3 days. I was trying this thing where I read at least 5 chapters a day. I did do it the first bit, but wait. I read 5 chapters one day. I read 6 chapters one day, and then, okay, maybe I finished this in 2 days. Whatever was the last happen. No, 3 days sounds right. 1, 2, 3? Yeah. Good book. I'd recommend it, kind of, if you want to be confused and suspense. I don't like when climaxes are a little bit rushed like that. I'm not a fan, but I think it was good. I'm not an author, so who am I to judge, you know? This is going to be the next book I read, so I will be sure to say something about this one, too. Socrates in Love by Kiyoichi Katayama. Thank you for watching. If you actually watched this. Love you. See you in the next video.